So today we are really, I think, emptying everything out. We are airing out our dirty laundry and we're telling some true facts about what's happened in our businesses, what's happened in our journey, to show our true selves.
Yes, well, I think that's what our new branding is all about, is to be real and authentic and be raw. And I think, look, in an ideal world with fluffy puppy dogs and rainbows and unicorns, your business coach would have nailed every step of the journey and never made a mistake. But that's not real life. And I think, um, fortunately and unfortunately, the lessons that come from doing the wrong thing in business and um, being in Shitsville actually shape you to be an amazing leader and a great business owner. So it's
Mm.
for those that survive the journey of making the big mistakes, because some don't, and I think it got pretty close for both you and I when we owned our salons many moons ago of closing up shop. I
Yeah,
think,
100%.
and I know that it took until you and I met and we started to air our dirty laundry to each other for us to go, actually, we've got a lot in common with the mistakes that we've made in business. And I think it shaped the coaches that we are today as well. Like, I think we have incredible empathy and understanding of clients that are in a financial position that's uncomfortable, don't we?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think the journey we've had is probably not much different to someone else's journey. We come out the other side, and I think it's nice for people to hear, what we did, I would call it trauma, whiplash, whatever you want to call it, what we went through to actually get to the other side. And yeah, there's lots of people that go through this, and I think it's nice to know that there is another side. And sometimes you can't see the light for the trees, or you can't see what's going to happen next, or you just feel like you're on a roller coaster. And I feel so grateful that I got to the other side. I don't know, you do as well, Jay.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But I think there's
Yeah.
times when you think you're not going to be able to change it. You think, how the
Mm.
fuck am I going to get myself out of this position?
Oh,
And
definitely.
I think there's a lot of what do you call it, whiplash. There's yeah, there's a lot of trauma associated with being in debt. Or ultimately that was our story, being in debt and making all those mistakes financially. Um, that I think when you are in that position, you really have to believe that it can be better and it should be better, and you deserve more than that, because there's a lot of shame associated with it. Like, I think when you meet a client for the first time and they're talking to you about their struggles in business, they'll say, "Oh, my team this and cash flow is tight." But then when you go
Mm.
deeper and deeper, they say, "Actually, I owe this much money and I've got this debt and I owe this person, I owe my team super or whatever it may be." It's really shameful even to a business coach, because we try to save face, don't we? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And I think I'll dive deep in a little bit of mine. And, for me, there's so many things that would come up for me. But I think, you and I have been no different in so many different ways of, what we've owed money to, and, borrowed money off our parents, and things like that. But for me, I think one of the kickers for me was sitting on the back step of the salon, and the feeling of that I've borrowed from, we say that saying, Peter to pay Paul. And I'd borrowed everything and done so many things and paid it back. But I felt like I was at my wit's end. And I think, we talk about that hamster wheel, or, you're on that roller coaster going, oh, it's really good. And then you go whoo, down the other side. And business has its, rises and its falls of where you're up to. But I think one of the things that for me, sitting on the back step of my salon, we used to have an outside laundry area, and I sat there and I thought, I need to change. I can't keep hitting this wall of the same thing happening, and having that letter from the tax office and the resistance that I would have, it'll be okay. I'll just put the next BAS on a payment plan. It'll be okay. And the letter that said, if you don't pay this by such and such a date, we're coming to lock your doors. And that was about a Thursday to a Monday. So I had about 2 business days, not even, probably one, if we think about it, 1 business day, 1 to 2 business days to make a change. And I I don't know even if you could see my face, but I remember one of my managers, I don't think she even still knows to this day, but I remember walking in the back room and a feeling just went over my face. It was like I'd gone like a ghost, white. And I walked into the back room and I thought, I've just got to switch on. I need to be a beauty therapist and I need to get on the floor. I've got a day of clients. And she said to me, are you okay? And I think that must have been the ghost like look, because I was never that person. I always showed up. I have always, not done my hair, my makeup. Like I've always shown up. It's okay. And that day it wasn't. And she noticed it. And I said, no, I'm all good. And I remember going back into the client and all a new client. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do? Like I've got to change something because it can only do so much. Like you can only do so much borrowing. You can only do so much repeated things until it stops. And that day for me, it stopped and I needed to make some changes.
So,
Yeah.
in the light of going deep, are you ready? Strap yourself in. You,
Absolutely.
um, in your 4,000 years of being alive, or however old you are, 50 years old, um, you have experienced different types of trauma. You've lost a parent. You've had shit times in business. You've been through illness. Um, where would you rate the stress of that day? Uh, where would you rate the stress of that day in terms of how horrific that was? Like, because they say divorce is stressful. Of course, losing a loved one is stressful and traumatic and horrific, but they also rate financial stress up there with some of the
Well,
worst. Where
as
would
we're
you rate?
talking about, yeah, for sure. As
Sweaty
we're
hands.
talking about it, if you're watching it, I'm getting sweaty palms. So, it's one of those things that it still brings things up. So I never ever want to go back there. And I feel like I've always suffered from migraines and less
Mm,
in the more recent years because migraines are what come with, levels of stress or pressure. And I would literally get a migraine every Friday because I thought if I don't make enough in the next couple of days when I've got to pay the wages, I'm buggered. Like the
mm,
stress went way past the migraine. It was, I feel like I was living on the edge. Like
yeah.
I had a really good business. I had a great team, but I was just making the wrong choices and doing the wrong things and purchasing things because money would come into the bank and I shouldn't have. And I know that
Mm.
now. And the lessons that I've learned from that, I install more in my day to day and my life and my now business as a coach because I don't ever want to have or be in that place where I'm at that level of stress.
Mm. So it's up there. Mm.
It's really up there. Like if you were to say if it was out of 10, it was like a 50. Like it was,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I feel, yeah. And I almost feel like the day I got that letter, it was like the icing on the cake, but it was also, there was some part of it that was a relief because I thought they're either going to lock the door or I need to do something really, really strategic here and be smart in not
Mm.
just the next step or the choice I make, but the future choices.
They say that when this is a really awful comparison, but I listen to crime podcasts. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do when I'm driving. I listen to crime podcasts. But they say that when like a murderer or a criminal gets caught for their crimes, there is a huge sense of relief that they can stop running and hiding. And I think like your epiphany was on that back step of your salon.
Oh,
That's
I
you can
always,
remember it
yeah,
like it was yesterday. That was when you got caught,
yeah,
I suppose. You know, um,
yeah,
mine was I was a complete superannuation cycle behind in my team super. So
yeah.
I used to pay my team super every 3 months, which I think is a mistake. So there's hot tip number one. Don't leave it for 3 months. If you're not good at your numbers, do not leave it every 3 months. Pay it weekly, absolute least monthly. Okay. It
Mm,
teaches you a lot about cash flow. But I got to the point where my quarterly super was owed and I didn't have it. I didn't have any other account to access the money from. I just had no money to pay it. So I thought, well, I'll pay double next quarter. And the next quarter, I didn't have it. So I was a um, full quarter behind in Team Super, and I didn't know what to do. I was in my mid 20s at that stage, no idea what to do, so out of my depth that unfortunately, one of my team members uh, found out before I told them. Okay, it was probably my biggest regret in business. And she confronted me in our team meeting in front of the rest of the team. Yeah. So your time of sitting on the back step, mine was sitting in the salon in the middle of a team meeting. Okay, being
mm.
confronted, and that was definitely my low point. Yeah, being found out. I what I was hoping to do was to hide it and catch up, and they'd be none the wiser. Yeah,
Mm,
it didn't work like that. Okay?
mm,
So yeah, I had to make a plan with the team of a time frame where I could pay their current super that was owed in the quarter and their past superannuation while I had overdrafts, while I owed multiple BASs to the ATO on a payment plan. And I think, there's lots of skills that you develop in business that are super helpful. Some
mm.
of the skills that I developed was knowing how long you could not pay your Telstra bill for before they would say, we're going to cut you off. So you'd use that money to release your L'Oreal bill so you had hair color, to be able to perform services, and then you put this on account and then you'd pay that and then um, you set up your FPOS so that it reconciles at 11 p.m. So you have wages, you can pay your wages the next day. It teaches you those skills, but you don't want to ever have to use those skills, do you?
I know, and it's so interesting that what you've just said. I did all of them and more. So mine
Yeah,
was like the kicker was the ATO. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I remember being confronted by the team as well. And I think, I remember sitting down, working out how I plan for this. And there was one thing that someone told me a long time ago, and I remember hearing it but never actioning it. And it was, if you already had what you really want, how do I need to show up? So like I feel like I showed up. Like my look was polished all the time. It still is today. Like I'm
mm,
always get up, I always get ready, but there was something else and it was up here. And I had to change how I did it because I never wanted to like you did, never wanted to let down your team. Like that's really
worst case,
actually quite,
worst case
it's hurt.
scenario. Yeah,
It hurts so much to let your team down. And I think I still see my team today and we go for, lunches and things like that. Actually, we're having a bit of a reunion at the end of this year. And, 20 years of being in business, it's a long time. And there's a lot of people that we see, a lot of friends that we make. And I think I don't want to ever lose that because I think they were great people. They worked for me. They got me to a place. And I just needed to make the changes. And it was no different to you. You needed to make the changes as well. So,
mm,
um, yeah, it was really thinking about different things and probably no different to someone listening today as I did 20 years ago. I was always thinking about what promotion, like what activity, like what did I need to do to bring more people into my business so I could pay these bills. And for me, I had to have a reality check when I started looking at reports. And I remember one of our first coaches got us to look at reports and look at them differently. And I thought, oh, I
Mm,
didn't even know these reports existed. I knew that one did, but not that one and that one. And I think one of the things that we do exceptionally well is we're really quite big picture thinkers. So we do the let's think of an idea, let's put this in, let's do that. But at the end of the day, it's often with what we've got, we just need to look after it and nurture
absolutely.
it.
So just so everyone's clear, um,
Mm.
what caused you to get into the shit? Was there one particular thing that got you into the shit, or do you feel like it was a clusterfuck of things that got you into the shit?
Credit cards, I think for me, I picked one and then I thought, well, I can't really pay that. So I, I feel like if it was an overall, it wasn't looking at how I was spending money because I had a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out, but I really wasn't looking at the numbers. And, hence why I love that today is because
Mm,
I just wasn't looking at it, Jay. I wasn't looking at, that's why I brought up reports. I wasn't looking at the reports. I wasn't looking at, how much was my team bringing in? What were the gaps? Where was the capacity? And I think one of the other things for me was I was the ball hogger and I was doing the most, probably one of the most, the highest revenue in the salon, which happens to most of us, where I just didn't have the time to spend. Well, I didn't
mm.
have the time at the time I thought to spend on the things that I needed to, the time to spend on the actual things. And that's what got me into trouble. I just wasn't spending the time. I was just flat out doing everything I shouldn't have been.
And you grew really fast. You went from being a sole operator to having like a litter of team. How
Yeah, I
many,
did. I went,
like
yeah.
what was the fastest your team grew? Like from 2 to 7 or like in 6 months? Like can you remember how fast you grew in terms of team members?
Yeah, there was only myself and a business partner and one. So there was just the three of us. And then
Yeah.
we moved into a space and we had hair and beauty, and we had put on another apprentice and a part time, I think it was hairdresser, yes. And then within 3 months, we had 13 more team members.
How many? 3 months.
13. So we opened a new space, and within three
Mm,
months, like the paper had been there. We were in the local paper. We put ads that were $1,800. Like, even that's a lot now. Like, that was 30 years
mm,
ago or
yeah.
27 years ago. We put ads in for $1,800, and we are putting them in multiple, like, opposing months. And people would come to us 10 years later and say, I saw you in the such and such magazine. You think, really? Like, that was a long
Mm.
time ago. But it, it grew really quick. The revenue grew exceptionally. And when they say sometimes you can grow too quick, that was growing too quick. And that's what
Yeah.
happened. I grew
And
too
I
quick.
think that's the thing is, and that's when you started to go into putting your tax on payment plans and using credit cards to pay for bills, was because your team, your wage bill would have just absolutely skyrocketed in that period of time.
Yeah, revenue grew. It was probably quite a few years later. Like, I'm talking about 8 to 10 years after that we opened that space that it started to fold, collapse, strife, everything that you can think of that came my way. And I did. I got everything to help me, like credit cards. I would
Mm,
ask a friend and parents and like borrow money, pay it back, borrow money, pay. It just wasn't getting me into the place. So yeah,
mm,
it was awful. It was a terrible
mm.
time.
Mine's probably very uh, kind of a different way how I got into trouble. And look, I think it results in not knowing your numbers and not looking at your reports. And I think you and I are going to flip the switch a little bit in a minute and talk more about client retention and how that played a huge role in turning our businesses around. Because that's what our coach Lisa that we had at the time, she put a huge emphasis on retention and helped us turn our business around. Um, but for me, it was much earlier on in the journey. I had a big team. I
Mm,
had a team of 9. And I was working all the hours, doing all the things, making most of the revenue. But a big part of mine was that the wage ratio was way out of whack to the revenue.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so my wage
Yeah.
bill was well and truly over 50, 60% of my revenue. So
Mm.
there was no money for profit, no money to pay myself, and no money to pay for tax and so on. So I did get caught with tax, but I also had a spending problem because I
Tell us
looked at
more,
my,
Jay.
yes. Well, I share with my clients that I went to New York on a holiday and absolutely loved it. So I came back and booked another trip for 6 months later to go back to New York. Um, you know, no expenses spared. Broadway shows every night, fancy French restaurants. It was amazing. I thought I deserve a new car, and the accountant said, "What's a good way to offset your tax?" Which I didn't have money to pay tax anyway. So I bought a fancy car, thought I was top shit, and just I bought a house, put a deposit on a house. Like it was just spending, 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 spending on everything I could spend money on. Like I came
Mm.
from a very, we always had everything that we needed as a kid, but nothing was fancy. And I think I started to see in my early 20s what life could be like when you've got all of these fancy things, and it was ego as
Mm.
well. I liked people
Yeah.
seeing that I was successful, but I was spending other people's money. I was spending my team's money.
Mm.
I was spending my future money. I was spending the tax office money. I was spending Telstra's money, L'Oreal's money. It wasn't mine.
No.
So, but and I think also the other low point, and it is funny, and I think as much as we can get sweaty palms, we can look back and laugh. Let's quickly talk about. It's so funny the decision that we both made to sell shit. Because I remember,
Oh.
and I do laugh, and I'll be very quick because I know that we want to keep these these podcast episodes relatively short. I sold a dream catcher, those ugly things that
Yeah.
hang above your bed. Um, we all had those in the 90s. I sold a dream catcher like for $5. I sold a Tiffany rice cooker. The homewares brand Tiffany, the
Yeah.
blenders and
Yeah.
beaters and whatever. Um, I think it was like $10, $15. I advertised it on eBay. Facebook Marketplace wasn't a thing back then, and
I didn't even know they had them. I've never known them to even sell something like that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But an entire family came to my house in a beat up old Mitsubishi Magna, and the entire family of five piled out of this car, came inside, wanted me to demo the rice cooker, and then wrangled me down by $5. And honestly, like I laugh about it now because it's so bad. But let's say I sold it for $10 after an hour of wheeling and dealing with these people, bogans, they were bogans. And I thought, what's my life come to selling rice cookers to a family of five? Like even three kids came in. I just thought, what the hell? Um, and I was selling things out of my shed. I sold my spare bed out of my spare bedroom because it was for guests. I didn't need it. Yeah, sold tools out of the shed, which I think that we had that in common, didn't we, Marie? You were selling some of Craig's
Yeah.
old tools. You'd bring a spanner and say, Craig, do you need this? That
Yeah,
was,
well, there were so many things. Like I think I remember Craig helping me, and he said, "It's all right, love. We're going to get this sorted." And he would sell. He was always into like a motorbike or a boat and a jet ski, whatever. And he'd say, "Well, sell that, and that'll pay that credit, like credit card or whatever." Like he was so good and so helpful, and there was so many smaller items, but there was just what you realize how much you have when you can start selling things like that. And I
yeah,
think that it actually means so much to you, doesn't it? When you think, wow, I got rid of that, or I had the help from, or it's getting together. And I think the other thing is talking to your partner about it. Like, if I remember at one stage I didn't want to tell Craig, and then like we've been together 28 years, and I think I didn't want to tell him, and then I thought I need to tell him, I need to talk to
Mm,
him about it. And then, we both had a business, and it's the best thing you can do, because so many business owners hold that to themselves, and it's a problem where we
mm,
need to share that information. I'm sure you shared it with Jeremy.
absolutely. Well, his
Yeah,
his salon was propping my salon up for a long time after I came clean about that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
one thing that I've noticed, and it'd be interesting to see if you share this opinion. Um, I think when we started coaching, it would have to be 11 years ago now, 10, 11 years ago. I think there's been an
Oh,
attitude shift in business owners in recent years that, as a general rule, people aren't
mm,
prepared to sell shit from their shed as much as they did 10 years ago. There's more, and probably social media plays a role in that. There's more of a reputation that people want to uphold and a lifestyle that they want to uphold. Whereas 10, 11 years ago, you'd say to a client, I've been
mm,
their girlfriend, you need to start selling
mhm,
shit and you need to go back on the floor. And they'd say, yep, no problems at all. Whereas now, like a
mm,
client that I spoke to recently, like 6 months ago, she said it's hard because we want to travel with the kids. And I said, no, no more travel. Buy a tent, you
mm,
can go camping. But no, you can't travel, you can't go on holidays when you're in the shit that you're in. Sorry, too bad.
mm.
That ship sailed. No, Gold Coast holidays until you've got yourself out of the red. And
Yeah.
she was really resistant. Whereas I feel like that resistance or that mindset around, no, I still want the life now of
Yeah.
luxuries is stronger than what it was 10 years ago. Yeah. Would you agree with that, or do you see that, Marie?
Yeah, I think that comes from, there's like that Instagram life, and it's like everyone else is doing it. So like I can do it as well. And I think, well, you don't know what people are giving up to do that. Like, or what if they, like there is sacrifice. And I think some people aren't prepared to make the sacrifice. And, you and I went through tough times, but because we put ourselves in that position, it was no one else's fault but ourselves. We had to say, I'm the problem around this, and find out how we're going to get to that turning point to make it different. So
Mm,
I think we've gone down to the bottom and gone, well, we've got to step it up. We've got to change things. We were working on the floor a lot. What did we have to do different? But I see it in so many salon owners today that they want the fluff and they want all the big stuff. They're not prepared sometimes to realize what they need to
mm.
do to step it up. Mm.
And I think, unfortunately, you hang on to the hope that it'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. And
Oh,
that's what
I
I'm
was like
grateful
this.
for. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you needed to be told by the landlord or whatever it was, we're closing your doors on Monday, sweetheart. If you don't, we're
Mm,
locking your doors. And I needed to
mm,
be outed in front of my team to go, no, you need to take action now. And I think,
mm,
if there's one bit of advice to any business owner that's starting to have tight cash flow or put things on payment plans, reach out and get help now. Okay,
mhm.
assume it won't get better and take action now, because
Yeah.
sometimes it just gets worse and worse and worse until you're in real shitsville, and then it's just harder to turn around, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think the one thing, I wouldn't say I did this with everything, but I know I did it with majority of things, was honesty. So like I was best friends with I want to say it's Helen, but anyway, the lady in accounts at Goldwell. I
Yeah.
spoke to my skincare company. I think honesty, and say, I'm actually in a bad place at the moment. Can I have your help? Like whether that is
Mm,
paying for your stock and paying your current order and paying down the debt. Like work out a plan with that company. Work out a plan for your super. Work out a plan for your tax. And one thing, a lot of I see this all the time. It's something I'm really passionate about. It's that paying too much to say a payment plan of anything because you just want to get rid of it. I think just start paying it and pay your bills. Start a payment plan and keep paying your bills. Like you get yourself in the shit. The only way to get out of it is be really honest with everyone and say, I'm stuck and I need your help. And people will help you, support you just because you're honest. Like if you haven't paid your team super, let them know. And I've got a plan to do it. And this is how I'm doing it. Like
Mm,
I just feel like if there was more honesty around it, then we would get to the other side better.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. All right,
Yeah.
let's switch things up a gear. So
All
I
right.
think the ultimate learning from this conversation so far
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
be to own up to it, reach out for help. But also, I think the one thing that you and I nailed and had to nail when we looked
Mm.
at the numbers, we
Yep.
had problems in the numbers, retail, average client spend. A big one for me was discounting. Pretty much
Oh yeah.
everyone,
We had
including
that.
myself, yeah, 100%, discounted
Yeah.
everyone. And we were so creative with why we would discount. Oh, she was lovely, so I gave her a
Yeah.
discount. She got this for free, whatever. She worked with my mum, so she got a discount. So, but I think the thing was because you and I, we knew how to attract clients, we knew how to bring new clients in, but our business as a whole wasn't good at keeping them, you know. So, looking at those numbers and going, okay, I can bring 15 new clients into my business and only keep two. I think that was an eye opener. And because we both had very basic skills in marketing, because marketing's an
Mm-hmm.
absolute beast, and social media wasn't a thing back then. Absolutely
No.
wasn't a thing. You didn't have a Google listing, you didn't have a Facebook page, you didn't have an Instagram. So you had to do old fashioned marketing. So it was a little bit slower, a little bit harder to attract more new clients. So it wasn't as much of an option. But if you train your team to deliver service in a way where that new client, it's just a no brainer for them to know this is the
Mm.
place that I need to come to. This is the place that can look after me long term. I've found my place to land. That's when the magic happens. And you were really good at it, and I was really good at it, which kept us stuck on the floor. But we had to train our
Yeah.
people to retain the clients. And I think, unfortunately, that was the big lesson that both of us had in common. We had so much in common, and I
Mm.
think that's a part of the reason why we ended up business partners as well, because we've got that shared experience. Is that we've got enough clients to grow the average client spend. We've got enough
Mm.
clients. We just need to retain more of them. So I think maybe we could probably go a little bit deeper into what are some of the actions that you put into your business to retain more of your clients,
Mm.
or where did you have to shift your mindset? And I'll do the same. I think that would be valuable for our
Yeah.
listeners.
Well, I think what's interesting is, and we would say it today, and we would have said it like when I started my business 30 years ago, over that 20-year journey, there was things that you would bring in new and implement. But like you said before, Jay, we didn't have social. There was actual, I don't even think Facebook was around. Facebook
No,
came in, I can't even remember what year.
yeah,
And Instagram was only in, I don't even know how long Instagram's been around. But if you think about even just those social platforms, we didn't even have a computer. So we had an appointment book. So when
mm,
we think about client personalization and how we looked after them way back and then the journey changed, we would even give, I think when we got to our, wow, we've made it, we would have a beautiful welcome pack. And I think we wouldn't just
mm,
hand it to the client. We would do things like we would open that. I've actually got one, but I'd have to look for it. We would open that client pack and we would actually show them what was in it. Like we would say, I've only got a post-it note, but we would say, this is actually like a second visit voucher. And what this means is that when you book today, we'd actually lock it in and you would get this complimentary. Now you can still do that today, but
mm,
it's actually the personalized touch. It's ringing the clients and we would say, hey Jay, I haven't seen you for ages. Are you okay? Like now they don't pick the phone up, but you can send
mm,
it in a text message. Like I just
absolutely.
think, like we talk about email overload, but if you would email something out to the client in a newsletter and you did it today, it's still a nice touch. And I think we've forgotten about that. We forget about client personalization.
Experience and yeah,
Yeah, experience and just picking the phone up and saying, like, or texting someone to say, how was that wedding you went to? And I haven't seen you for a while, and I realized we didn't have you booked back in. Like, personalized touch is so much more important than thinking, wow, we've got all this social media, let's use it and put a post up and see if we get some new clients from this promotion. Like, it doesn't just need to be that. We've got to stop a little bit, I feel like,
Mm,
and look at what we've got in front of us.
mm. And I think for me, mine wasn't about going, okay, we've got a good client base. Let's put the extras on, like client welcome pack and the
Mm.
follow ups. I think for us, it went deeper because every client was discounted and
Oh,
our customer service as a base wasn't good. Whereas you had good customer service as a base, mine wasn't. Um, we would mix because it was a hairdressing salon, we'd mix the client's hair color up before they even arrived.
oh,
We go
good.
up. Marie's coming in at 10. She usually has this. Just mix it up now. Save some time. Okay.
Mm.
Or we'd let clients leave with their hair wet. Okay. That was very common. Okay. Lots of dry cuts. You just squirt people down with the spray bottle, comb it down, boop, boop, boop. Off they go. No, terrible.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so I think our main approach was, what does A grade celebrity service look like? And that was a lesson that I learned from a keynote speaker in Auckland in New Zealand. Um, was, what does celebrity service look like? And we developed as a team, what does celebrity service look like? And we started to deliver that to every single client. Okay, so
Mm.
if Lois came in at 10 a.m. and she usually just has a dry haircut, you spray her dirty hair down, stink the salon out when you run the iron over it. It was terrible. But we would say to Lois, next time we'll be doing a shampoo, cut and blow dry, and this will be the price. Okay. So we powered through clients. We lost a stack of clients, but the ones that valued great experience, they stayed and their spend doubled, and it had to, because our spend was
Mm.
low and the retention was crap because there was nothing keeping our clients coming back to us. Yeah. So then we started to get a reputation that, we were an incredible salon for the experience. Yeah. We just got better results. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I think when we think about, the journey we've had, the things that we looked at, what would be one key thing? Like, you sound like you discounted quite a bit, and I wouldn't
Mm.
mind diving deeper just into that for a second, Jay. When you discount it, was it a discount button, or would you change the price at point of sale? Because that's such a big thing that happens in salons.
Oh no, I was very good at it.
Oh, tell
There
us
were
more.
so many different options. Are you ready? Take a notepad. If you want to learn how to discount, I'm your man. I know how to discount. It's terrible. I almost don't want to say it. It's like, here's how to murder someone and get away with it. Are you ready? Take some notes. Um, so let's say if you wanted some foils, I'd do a half head but only charge a quarter head. Or if you only wanted a few foils, I just wouldn't charge you for your foils at all. But
Mm.
if those foils needed toning, never charge for a toner. If you're running late, do a treatment. Okay, not do a treatment because their hair's dry and they need the condition. Just throw a treatment on. Okay, um, if something was $107, how annoying is that seven? Just make it 100. Yeah. If you were booked in for a root tint and it was $100, but you needed to freshen up all the way through the mid lengths and ends, okay, we would charge you for your 30-gram tint, but we use 50 grams of color. It's all good. Mm.
So would you have like this would happen in so many salons, that's why I wanted to ask it. So when you think about that, would that be a tab that would pop up? You could press the discount or just change the price or
Well, in the
both?
system that we had, you could select a percentage, or you could click on where it says 107. You could click
And
on
just
that
change it.
and just change
Yeah.
it to 100. Yeah.
Wow.
Or what you could do, you'd have all of your services itemized that the client had done, and you'd click on the blow dry and just click delete, and it would disappear. So, and that was the hard thing, is I changed my behavior with that, but to track and
Good.
monitor, okay, say if Marie came in and Sally looked after Marie, how do I know that Sally hasn't discounted Marie? So
Mm.
I had to start to look at Sally's client history, and I would see that Sally wrote down Marie had 20 grams of this and 20 grams of that, but she was only
Mm.
charged for 30 grams. What happened to the extra 10? So I had to become a bit of a private investigator and be across what my team were charging their clients. But what made it easier is I was doing it myself, and I found every nook and cranny to discount. So, you know, that
Mhm.
old saying, it takes one to know one. Um, I think it became my strength because I knew how to discount people and do it well and how to hide it. Okay. Which was
Mm.
interesting. It was something that I never done when I worked um, as an employee at a salon, never discounted because you couldn't. You couldn't discount because there was
No.
receptionists always on. And I had a receptionist, but I'd tell her what to do. Just discount that. Just take that off. Yeah. So,
Mm. And
yes.
just imagine how much, and even someone listening, if you're doing that, imagine how much more revenue you could be bringing in just by stopping that. So, thinking about what I said earlier is how would you show up if you already had what you want? So, if you're not in a
Mm,
place where you need to be, just changing that, wow,
mm.
thousands and thousands of dollars,
Literally, it
isn't
was
it?
mine was a couple of thousand a week. Yeah, mine was a couple of thousand a week.
Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
I need a glass of wine after that.
Well, I think talking about our businesses and our journey, it's a big thing. And I think there's so much to look at when it comes to, you know, client retention, your rebooking, your new clients, your lost clients. There's so much to look at, discounting. What about if we were to talk about what's hot and what's not? What's hot right now?
Can I start with what's not hot? Because I've been dying to
Sure,
mention it.
sure.
What's not hot, and I believe it's the worst type of debt, and it'll be interesting to see what you think. I think there's good debt and there's bad debt, but this is the bad of the bad debt. Um, are those loans that you can get that are
Hmm.
exceptionally high interest? They're higher interest than credit cards or overdrafts, and they tend to advertise instant money, and they tend to advertise after midnight on TV.
Yeah, yeah,
One of
they
the
do.
yeah, one of the companies is Moolah, a Moolah loan,
Yeah.
um, and I know that a few clients have got those loans because you can get like a cash advance of 20 grand within 48 hours.
Mm, mm,
But and I think how they get you is they ask you to do a daily payment. So
mm,
they'll say, "Oh, Marie, it's only $110 a day," and you think that's doable. But $110
mm,
a day is $770 for the week on a 20 grand loan. It's
mm,
insane. And by the time you pay that $110, 90 of it is interest. You're
mm.
barely paying the loan down. It's just a
Yeah,
spiral, it's a spiral, it's a spiral. You're better off with a bloody credit card than one of those instant dodgy loans. That's
yeah.
not hot.
I think anything that you go to for something like that that's got a high interest. So whether it's a high interest loan, high interest credit card, maybe it's short now and then it's going to drop down. Anything that's got that high interest isn't hot because you haven't thought about it enough. You were probably in the position I was where I went, what am I going to do? I need instant money,
And
but I
fast.
needed
Yep.
to, yeah, and fast. And I think that's where a lot of people do make that mistake around just jumping into the first thing that's whether it's on TV at night or it flashes up on your socials. You start looking for it, it just comes your way, doesn't it? Like it's just there
Yep.
in every sense. And definitely, I would agree not to go there. There's a reason for those loans, and I think there's, maybe it's something that can work for somebody if you work it well. But for most people that we see in our industry, they use it because they need it instant, and it's not good.
Mm. Look, and
Um,
I definitely don't blame um, the people who access those loans. Um, it's the smoke and mirrors around those loans that these people that are providing the service, they don't tell
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
No. Looks good.
no,
It's not even, I don't think, the people. I think it's we're not doing enough work around it to work out that it's not even right. Like you got to do your own due diligence around it, don't you, as well? And we don't.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Mm.
what's hot when we talk about what's not? What's hot at the moment?
Mm. What's hot? What's working? Well, I think that, and it's probably one of those things that gets overlooked because we probably think it's a little bit fluffy, but that new client welcome pack is a game changer. I think we've spoken about it in our previous episode of new client incentives to get them to book in for their second visit. But when you create something beautiful, that's a gift. It feels like that client's receiving a gift with
Mm.
offers to upgrade to different services, to be exposed to more of what it is that you do, to lock in that second appointment. But it's oh, thank you. It works on that law of reciprocity, that when you give something to someone, they feel compelled to give back, and they give back by making their appointment for their second visit. That's what's hot. And I always say to clients when I'm talking about client journey, do not overlook the new client welcome gift, particularly if there's some incentives for the client to book in for other services or even just more of the same. It's not fluffy. It actually packs a huge punch. And you used to do that really well because
Mm.
I think you've got an eye for that type of thing.
Mm. Yeah, it's just personalizing it and the opportunity, like looking at that number specifically every week is, if you've got five, six, seven, it doesn't matter. Some people have 15 new clients a week. What an opportunity. Like they didn't just choose, I think I'll just go there today. They would have looked around. They say there's about 20 touches before someone walks into your business, whether it's they've spoke to somebody, they've driven past, they've looked on social, they've Googled you, whatever it might be. And they'll do that repetitively. Don't miss that opportunity. Like that is gold that they've walked
Pure
into your
gold.
business.
Mm,
Oh, it's like pure gold. Don't let it run away. Like
mm,
nurture that client and nurture the current ones.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I think we've gone over time, Marie.
This has been a long episode, but it's been a goodie.
Well, we think it's been a goodie. I
Yeah.
feel a little bit drained. Anyway, thanks so much, Marie. It's a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Jay.